Welcome to the Misfit One Lifestyles with Elizabeth Colin. She will awaken and connect with your Misfit One. Are you tired of the ups and downs in your life? Are you ready to live a healthy lifestyle once and for all? We are talking about all aspects of your life. Being fit is not just physical, it's also your mind and soul. Learn how to take steps in your life to move towards your goals. Elizabeth's goal is for everyone listening to the sound of her voice to get fit. Let's get focused, let's get intentional, and let's transform. Now here's your host, Elizabeth Colin.
This week's guest on Misfit One Lifestyles is Dr. Maxwell, and we're going to be talking about
how you can have a personalized relationship with your doctor without having rush visits and work with someone who really focuses on your inside, your internal health, so that you can better take care of the temple God trusted you with.
Oh, you don't want to miss it. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Misfit One Lifestyles with your girl, Elizabeth Colin, also known as Misfit One. Listen, today's guest is someone that is going to literally be my little sister in this whole endeavor, because she and I are so in line on what she believes, and she is a doctor. Listen, let me do it again. Doctor. Welcome, Dr. Crystal A. Smith Maxwell. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for taking time out. Listen, you are doing some amazing things over there in Indian land. Is it Indian land?
Yes.
Indian land?
Yes. There's Indian Trail, which is in Union County, North Carolina, and then Indian Land is in South Carolina, right below Ballantyne.
Okay. I have a friend that lives in Indian Land, but I wasn't sure. I knew it was two different ones, trail or land or whatever. Mm-hmm. So in Indian Land, you have your wellness center out there, right?
Yes.
And it's called Light Family Wellness.
Yes.
Can you tell us what LIGHT stands for first before we go in? Because I really love that.
I sure can. It stands for Living in God's Holy Temple.
Oh. Bravo. You guys, I love the name of your theme, because when I was young, I didn't even remember this, but you know how everybody reconnect on Facebook and everything. I used to always say my body is my temple, because I wasn't the one. I never would drink or get high or nothing. You know, my body is my temple. And they said, girl, you really were saying that all those years ago. And I'm in wellness. How funny is that? You know, I wish somebody would have told me that a long time ago. I wouldn't have went through so many things. But you knew right away that this was your calling.
I did. Decided I wanted to be a doctor. Well, figured out I wanted to be a doctor around the age of 14. I saw my grandfather go through advanced stage prostate cancer, and I was very intrigued by the science and what the doctors were saying, what the nurses meant, what the machines meant. I wanted to know it all. I wanted to know what they were talking about. And so my passion for science just blossomed after that, and just looking at the relationships between the conversations had between the doctors and the nursing staff and my family. And, you know, unfortunately, there was still they didn't know what was going on. And I was like, why? You just talk to the doctor. Why are we still confused about what this is? And so, you know, I was like, I want to be a doctor, and I want to be able to explain to people, you know, what's going on with them and help them to understand what it all means. And so here I am, you know, later in life, and have my own practice to be able to do that.
And what's so great about that is because you were like the chief medical officer at a huge multi-community health center. And I know from going to the doctor, and they have quick time with you. I remember, and I didn't realize that until one of my favorite doctors was saying they were leaving the facility because they were spending too much time with their patient, which is mind-blowing. I did not know that was such a thing.
Yeah. I mean, being on the administration side, I had the voice to be able to try to make some changes about the schedule and try to allow for some longer times. But unfortunately, due to third party payers and what they were requiring us to do, it just, we could only do so much. It just became very frustrating and disheartening that there were conversations that I felt like I needed to have with my diabetic patients, not just you need to go out and lose 15 pounds, but let's talk about why you have it and what things you need to do. But I didn't have time to do it because I had 10 other patients, waiting in the room, behind me. And I was like, but this isn't, I can't help them. I can tell them, but they need more help than what I can give them in 10 minutes. And
Right.
so, after doing that for 10 years, I was like, no, there has to be a better way. Learned more about direct primary care, was a bit afraid about jumping out into my own and being the whole responsible thing. So I probably should have done it. I knew I should have done it sooner than when I actually did. But
Right,
God
right,
kept
right.
tapping on me like, hello, hello. But once I did and I stepped out on faith, I should have done it. I should have followed what he said sooner.
It don't matter. You was obedient
But I
anyway.
was obedient. It took me some time, but I was obedient.
Thank you. Sometimes it takes a little while, but I'm that reluctant obedience, right? I'll do okay, me, yes, you, So we are so happy that you did, Dr. Maxwell, because a lot of people don't really know what primary care is, direct primary care is. And I love how you said that was kind of your reasoning in transitioning from that. But can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. In direct primary care, it's basically taking the middleman out of your healthcare for primary care services, so that you and your patient can actually make the decisions about what things need to be done. Unfortunately, with third party payers, there's some things that you can't do in the same visit because they won't reimburse for that. So if you come in for a preventive exam and you happen to have a UTI and you want to get treated, you're like, well, you can't do both. You'll have to schedule another visit, to do that, which is crazy. It's
I did
crazy.
not know that until I went. I think I figured that out like this year for my physical because I wasn't feeling so well. And usually I'm fine, And I was like, hey, while I'm here, can we check? Because I'm having a sore throat. And it's like, do you want a separate appointment for that? And I was like, I'm here. Like, I could do it now. And it's like, no, you can't. I'm thinking, I don't understand. Like, I literally don't understand. And then my doctor, who probably shouldn't be saying this, but she was like, listen, let's put it all under the same one. But that was the first time. But they had to explain to me that you cannot come, if you coming in for a wellness, God darn it, that's all they're going to talk to you about.
Right. And that's, and it's not that we don't necessarily want to do it, but overhead, we have to pay for overhead. We have to pay, for the things that keep us in business to be able to sustain the business and going. And so, when we have to make decisions of either I help you and don't get paid and I have to do this for free, we went to school a long time, have loans to repay and have things to do. And so we do have to unfortunately juggle when third party payers are involved about whether we're just going to go ahead and do it for free or, make you come back. And that's an unfortunate thing. So with direct primary care, you're paying a monthly membership, which for most primary care practices that are doing direct primary care, it's generally less than most people's cell phone bills. And so as a member of the practice, like being a member of your gym, it gives you access to your physician, like access to a personal trainer, and you don't have to worry about those additional copays or is this covered or is it not covered. The membership covers my overhead. And so if you come in for that wellness exam and you do have UTI or you do think you have strep throat, we can do all of those things and I don't have to tell you to come back. Because unfortunately, what happens a lot of times that I've experienced is when we tell people to come back, they self-medicate or do stuff that can end up harming them, or there's delayed treatment and they're a lot sicker because they can't get back in for 2 to 3 weeks, or they don't come back, and then they end up at the ER or urgent care, even more, so much more complicated. So with direct primary care, you're a member of my practice. We don't have anybody dictating to us what we can and can't do in that visit.
That's phenomenal. It really is because listen, I'm 50 years old, see, and so I've been around a long time, saw a lot of things. And I remember back when I was obese and out of shape, and my doctor was obese and out of shape and kept telling me I have to lose weight. And thinking, wait a minute, you got to lose weight too. Like, we both got to lose weight. So it was really hard. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? Doctors
I
have
do.
changed because doctors used to be not the most healthiest people. And so, but you guys who's listening, Dr. Maxwell is not only talking the talk, she is walking her whole life out for you. She is in face, her little skin is so smooth, her hair so beautiful. You know, she is a visual cue of what health looks like. And that's very encouraging. And people listen more when they see, like, oh, okay, well, if you can do it, I believe you. Versus back in the days, I was like, boy, if you don't sit your butt down, like, you can't tell me to lose weight and you bigger than me. Like, you first, right? You first. And
I get
so
it. I get it.
very different now. And I love the fact that you took out the middleman and you did your direct primary care because you are able to sit with people. And you brought it up before when you said when people have diabetes, you say, okay, you got to lose 15 pounds, but and take this insulin, you know, or take this medicine, okay? And you hand them the medication, but that is just to put a Band-Aid, not to, right?
Yes. Yes. And even just with dealing with diabetes, that's a whole life change in itself. And people have to be at a point that they're ready to accept it, for one. And they want to have those conversations with their doctor about that and what that means. And so I believe very much in multidisciplinary teams where you do have different people coming in and being support parts of the team. But there are a lot of conversations that people just really want to have with their doctor. Like, no, I really want to talk to you about, I know there's a nutritionist out there, but really, doc, what do you think? And it's allowed me to work more closely with people because I can understand, well, I understand why you're not losing weight and why you're stressed because you're not sleeping and you're having to make those decisions about medicines cost versus what you're going to eat cost. And you have children who are going through some things. There's so many life things that happen that me just telling you to take a pill isn't going to solve your diabetes. We need to talk about all of the things that affect you to come up with a comprehensive plan so that you can actually live it out and do it. And so I enjoy being able to talk with people and have more time to be able to have those crucial conversations.
And that is key, especially in our Black communities, because we are so dismissed on so many levels, right? We go to the doctor like, yeah, that's because it's not a big deal, right? Mm-hmm. And so, and it's also hard for us on the other side to really respect or soak in what the doctor's saying, because he's not living my life. He don't know nothing about me.
Yeah.
Right. And you said it best, that it's a whole lifestyle shift. And that's exactly what I teach in my classes. That's what you as a doctor will do. And what's great about it is it takes, you know, one thing, like you say with diabetes. For me, I had high blood pressure, and I had high blood pressure for a long time, and it was common, right? All Black people get high blood. You at that age.
Yeah.
Right? You at that age. And they never talked to us about it's a big deal. It's not scary. So you accepted it. Like, I was like, oh, because at first I was afraid, Dr. Maxwell, I got high blood pressure. Mm-hmm. What? And I was probably 40. No, I don't even think I was 40. I was in my 30s, like 32, 33. Mm-hmm. And I had high blood pressure, and everybody was like, well, that's about that age.
Right.
You find that they feel it's a cultural thing a lot of times, and we accept it a lot more of taking that medication.
Yeah. And missed off the conversations about, well, how can I get off? And how can I decrease the complications? And how do I prevent my children from having this? And those are conversations that need to be had, and you can't do that in 5 to 7 minutes.
Well, guess what?
I went through heart failure when I was 30.
No.
Yes. Never would have thought, when I was feeling bad, I thought that I had a blood clot. I was 30 on a birth control pill, had an infant, had just flown. So, to me, I got a blood clot, and to find out, no, this is heart failure was shocking. So even though I knew the medical background of what that does and what that means and entails, being the patient was gave me a whole different perspective about, okay, well, how do I make this work for my life? And what things do I need to do, to make this better? And so even going through that experience from the patient side, unfortunately, I didn't have the best hospital experience when it happened, which again makes me very concerned when some of my people go into the hospital and they don't have medical backgrounds. When, I think about what happened to me and I got a medical background, it's scary. And so, even with my patients, when they are in the hospital, I'm texting them, what are they saying? What are they doing? When do you need to follow up? Because I want to make sure that their staff knows they have an advocate. They have somebody who they're following back up with to say, you were on the right path and you've done those things. And so I just my whole life experiences have helped and shaped me so that, I can try to be that support person for people.
When you had your heart failure, can you kind of share more about that? Like, how was that? Like you said, being a patient versus being the one, the medical person. So when you had your heart failure, were you having any symptoms or?
So my daughter when I was actually diagnosed, my daughter was 6 months old. So, we didn't sleep. She was not a good sleeper. So we were up every few hours. My husband and I did rotate nights, but it was still, she's an infant, right? So I wasn't sleeping. So being tired, I just felt like it was just, I'm not sleeping and I got an infant and I'm trying to work. But I had felt like, at one point I thought I kind of had a cold because I had a cough. And so at one point I thought I had pneumonia. But it wasn't really infectious kind of thing. So it was really more just very vague and just really, really, really tired. But it became alarming when I had gone on a flight to visit a friend out of town that I went to, did my residency with, and walking back in the airport, I literally had to take breaks. I could not get back to the front of Charlotte Airport from the terminal. I was tired. I had to literally take breaks. And I got home and I told my husband, I'm going to take a nap. You take the baby. And he did. And I literally could not lie flat. I could not lie down. I felt short of breath. And I was like, something is not right. I can't breathe, cannot breathe. And so it was extremely scary, and got there. My blood pressure was out the wazoo. It was very high, generally not high. And so it was a very, very scary, experience trying to figure out exactly what's going on. But starting out, it was very vague. And particularly for women, that is why heart disease is such a deadly killer in women, is because we do present atypical. We don't do the classic symptoms of what people is in the textbook.
Yeah.
And so it can be hard to figure out. Exactly. Yeah. We don't have the Fred Sanford, he's coming to kill. We don't have that, right? So it was very strange. It was just very atypical until it got really, really severe. And so I'm always listening to women when we talk about what are your symptoms, what's going on with you. We do have those. Yeah.
Because that is so true. Listen up, ladies. She just brought up something that's invaluable to us, knowing that women do not have the typical, the left arm hurts, or we have the pain in our chest for a heart attack or some sort of heart disease, something that's going on with our heart. And it's crazy. I had to learn it the hard way because one of my friends or something went in and she had found out she had like 3 heart attacks and
Oh,
didn't
wow.
even know it because she just felt tired or this.
Mhm.
And so some of the symptoms that you say is, you felt out of breath, you couldn't walk a long period, you were tired and sleepy and discomfort. And God damn it, isn't that us every day?
I mean, yeah,
Right.
it is.
So how do we know that's different? Because
Right.
we, as working women, we are tired because we stayed up all day, but we justify all of those symptoms.
Mhm.
But when it becomes too much is when you need to really go in, dial 911, go to the doctor. And again, like she said, it's very vague because they don't take our symptoms seriously.
Yeah. And that's why, having those regular checkups, preferably with someone who looks like you and has the time to listen, it can make or break things. And not waiting until it is so severe. One of the things that I do when I am doing an assessment with someone, whether they complain of anything or look to be in perfect health, one of the things that we are, science is showing for sure is insulin resistance is causing a lot of problems, is the precursor for a lot of chronic conditions, heart disease, high blood pressure, prediabetes, dementia, cancers. So if we can assess as a precursor and understand that from the metabolic standpoint, that is one thing that I advocate with every one of my patients. You just need to know where your insulin falls. Are you insulin resistant? It's not just that being diabetic. It's not just that your sugar is fine, but literally, do you have elevated insulins already? How do you prevent yourself from developing insulin resistance? What nutrition things do we need to go ahead and be talking about? How should you eat, keeping insulin in mind? Because now that we understand that, prevention is key. And so I enjoy talking to people about that and explain it. And I know that it's not very popular or wide known or talked about now. And traditional practices is not covered in insurance. So it's not mainstream talked about either, unless you already have pre-diabetes or diabetes. But
Correct.
these are conversations that should be had, begin to be had even before we're having the actual, complications from that.
Let's get a little deeper in that. Before though, tell people how can they find you, Dr. Maxwell?
So my website is www.lightfamilywellness.com. And it's the same on Facebook and Instagram. I just developed a TikTok account as well, but at Light Family Wellness for all of those is how you can reach me. My number to my office, which is a textable number as well, is 704-594-1140. And so, you can reach out to me on any of those social medias or check out my website, request an appointment. I do free just consultations just to get to know you. We can talk on the phone or you can come and visit with me to see if we're a good fit.
Right.
And I like doing those things.
And now we know where to meet you, because I'm gonna come out there. It's like no big deal. I'll be out in that area. But here's what I want us to talk about, and really dig a little deeper into your nutrition and weight loss program and the importance of treating insulin resistance, because you said it. They do not. You hear me, guys? They do not care about that at your primary care physician unless you already have diabetes or you pre-diabetic. So what Dr. Maxwell is doing is so important. I have been talking about this for so long that people don't even listen to me no more. They like, but tell them, let's talk about that. Before we wrap everything up, because this is the meat of everything. And can you give a little checklist that people really need to kind of look at and see what's going on?
Absolutely. So, checking for insulin resistance, it's a blood test that can be done, and there's calculations that we do that help us to determine the severity of it. And so you do want to go to a doctor who does understand that, because again, a lot of traditional practices are not doing those calculations or monitoring unless you already have a diagnosis. So you do want to check out and be sure that you're with someone who understands what that means. But, even with looking at your glucose from your hemoglobin A1C, not just the one-time glucose that comes on a standard metabolic panel. I've had so many people who've said, oh yeah, they told me that I'm not diabetic or pre-diabetic. My glucose was fine when they did it, but a hemoglobin A1C was not checked. And that is what tells over a 2 to 3 month span how your sugar averages. So your fasting may still be compensated because you're putting out more insulin to get the sugar out of your bloodstream, but you are having spikes other times of the day. And that just one time glucose doesn't give you that information. The hemoglobin A1C can give you a lot more information. So having those levels checked, having your cholesterol checked, having your vitamin D level checked. There are lots of African Americans who are low in vitamin D. We've seen that vitamin D plays a role in that insulin resistance pathway. So making sure we understand where you are with vitamin D is important too. Understanding if your body has elements of inflammation, because high insulin levels stimulate inflammation. And we now know that inflammation plaques is what clogs the heart and the brain, causing strokes and heart attacks. Is not just high cholesterol. We have known that for some years, even though it hasn't been discussed like it should have been. But those plaques are inflammation plaques. So understanding an assessment for if your body's in an inflammatory state, because if it is, anti-inflammatory foods are the way that you really need to go. And so having those assessments and understanding your body from a metabolic standpoint is very important. I've had people who've lost 50 plus pounds and they still are not metabolically healthy. So if we get comfortable and say, oh, well, I lost 50 pounds, I'm all good now, but you're still have metabolic dysfunction, you're still at risk of stroke and heart attacks. And so when I'm working with people, those are the things that I'm following. So yes, I want you to get to a goal weight of what you weigh, but I want your insides. I want your metabolic health to be good so that we're not having these strokes and heart attacks down the road.
I love that because it's facts. That's facts. I tell people all the time, people try to get to their goal weight by any means necessary. So I say, okay, so you really don't care if one person holding your coffin or 4 people holding your coffin, because just because you got to that weight does not mean that you are healthy. Yep. And I say it all time, and listen, you guys know it. Health begins on the inside. It's the inside that really counts. The outside is just a bonus. So I say that, listen, my six pack is a side effect of how my inside, it's a good side effect, but it's just a side effect. So Dr. Maxwell has given you some information for you to sit back and think on, not just what's pretty on the outside may not be pretty on the inside. So it's so important. Reach out to her. You got her information. Can you give it to us one more time?
www.lightfamilywellness.com, social media at Light Family Wellness, and the office number is 704-594-1140.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on today, because this could be a life-changing conversation for so many people. And I am so proud of you for doing all the work that you are doing out there. It's just so important to feel as though you are taken care of by somebody that really cares, yes, not just the numbers. So thank you so much, Dr. Maxwell.
Thank you for having me.
All right, you guys, is it anything else that you want to say before we wrap it up? Anything you want to leave for the people?
Just, you're living in God's holy temple. And so just make sure that you're thinking about that as as we do all of our other day-to-day. God entrusted us to take care of the temple the way that he entrusts us to take care of our kids, our homes, and everything else. So we have to put that same priority for our bodies.
Bam, because that's true. We always live in fit, right? You stay focused, intentional, and you can transform anything. So till next week, you guys, stay fit. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Misfit One Lifestyles. Listen, when you are fed up and sick and tired of living this stifled, overwhelmed, and overstressed life, and you're ready to live the fullest, richest, and healthiest life by gaining more confidence, more energy, and more clarity, living in your best self, you know what to do, right? Go ahead, go to my website, misfit1.com. Sign up for our online courses, Creating Healthy Habits, so that you too can live fit, focus, move with intention, and transform your life.